Today on The Truth About Cars, we are taking a look at the future of Volvo. This is the all-new Volvo XC90 SUV. Now, the XC90 is the first Volvo built on their all-new SPA platform, which will underpin practically everything from the S60 all the way on up to this XC90, including the all-new S90 that we should see next year. The big changes for this platform, of course, are that it's a little bit wider, it's a little bit bigger, and it's only designed to accommodate 4-cylinder engines up front. Yes, you heard that right. Under this shapely hood, only 4-cylinder engines live. In Europe, we do get 4-cylinder gasoline or diesel engines. In the US, we only get one engine. It's a brand new supercharged and turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder direct injection engine producing 316 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Now, in addition to this choice, obviously being related to crash safety by giving us about 2 feet of crash structure in front of the engine, it's also related to vehicle weight, because the XC90 in this generation only has about 52% of its weight on the front axle, about 48% on the rear. That actually is an awful lot closer to something like a Mercedes-Benz GLE or ML than it is something like an Acura MDX that has 60% of its weight on the front axle. It's not quite as balanced as a BMW X5, but we're very, very close. The 4-cylinder engine is mated to a standard 8-speed automatic transmission, actually very closely related to what we see in the brand new 2016 Lexus RX, and of course a Haldex all-wheel drive system, again standard, sending power to all 4 axles. In terms of overall length, the XC90 is a hair longer than an MDX or a BMW X5, but it is about 6 inches shorter than a Mercedes-Benz GL. Unlike the BMW X5, there is no 5-seat version of the XC90. This is a 3-row crossover only. That also is what separates this from something like that Mercedes-Benz GLE. This really is more of a Mercedes GL-type competitor if you're looking for that number of seats. Up front, our model has the optional LED headlamps. Now, base models actually get regular old halogen lamps. There's no HID headlamp for the XC90. It's either regular old halogens or these really snazzy steering full LED headlamps. Now, the LEDs are available on that base model for about $1,800 extra. Out back, the design should be very familiar to anybody who's seen a Volvo recently. We get these very typical Volvo hips, although the tail lamps do have a different shape to them. The XC90 has quite simply one of the nicest modern interiors. This actually rivals the modern Mercedes-Benz S-Class in terms of overall design, fit and finish, and parts quality. Since the model we're taking a look at here is the fully loaded Inscription model, we have the optional Bowers & Wilkins sound system there up front. We have leather trim on the dashboard and the upper portion of the doors, both front and rear, and we have this very, very attractive open pore wood trim on the dashboard, on the doors, and on the center console. The infotainment system is this brand new Sensus infotainment system that operates very much like a tablet computer. The system is quite easy to use, and it also includes all the controls for the climate control system in the XC90. Response times are very, very snappy, and the system is very easy to configure and customize. Unlike many of the luxury entries, this system also includes full voice command of your music library, so you can actually command artists, albums, genres, etc. Moving over to the driver's side, we do have a full LCD instrument cluster with multimedia information right there inside. You can optionally choose a moving map display. Moving out from that, we have an all-new Volvo steering wheel. We have controls for that multifunction display on the right there that also functions as volume up, down, track forward, backward. And then we have the controls for the radar cruise control and the slow-speed autonomous driving system on the left. This seat design is an all-new seat design for Volvo, and I was a little bit concerned because Volvo's previous generation seats were so comfortable, I was worried if they might mess that up, and they really haven't in this model. They've actually made it better. The tilt telescopic steering column has a very large range of motion, but it does remain manual in this generation of the XC90, not powered like we find in some of the competition. Moving to the rear, you'll notice that we have a 40-20-40 folding rear seat. However, what's unique about this is that this 20 section in the middle is completely independent of the others. That means that you can move this seat forward and backwards independently of the others and recline it or fold it independently of the others. That is quite different than most vehicles out there. As with many 3-row crossovers, the 3rd row is fairly cramped and it's best left to the cargo. My head does brush the ceiling if I'm sitting back there. However, unlike most 3-row crossovers, you actually can fit a 26-inch roller bag and a 24-inch roller bag right here behind the 3rd row. That's something that I wasn't able to do in the Acura MDX. I have to say that I'm definitely impressed by this new platform. I am still a little bit sad that the only engine on offer is this 2-liter 4-cylinder engine because it just doesn't feel quite as refined as the 6-cylinder engines we see in the competition. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see BMW jamming a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine in their X5 at some point. Audi will already be doing that in 2016 with the Q7, and the rest are just going to follow suit. Now, by jamming that small engine under the front and not a larger engine, Volvo has been able to make this vehicle not only lighter, but actually shift a lot of the weight to the rear. That means when we're driving this vehicle out here on this winding mountain road, it doesn't plow like you find in an MDX or in an Infiniti QX60. It actually handles more like an all-wheel drive version of the Mercedes-Benz ML. On the downside, I was a hair disappointed by the performance in this Volvo. Volvo was quoting a slightly faster 0 to 60 time than we actually got. This vehicle ran from 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds. Now that time is better than what Edmunds was reporting, so I repeated that process several times and got 6.4 seconds every time. The feel of this engine is actually quite good. It's both turbocharged and supercharged, which means we get good low-end acceleration from that supercharger and decent high-end performance from the turbocharger. Now, surprisingly enough, that 0 to 60 time is actually faster than the last BMW X5 with the 3-liter 6-cylinder engine that we tested. The braking distance was a little bit longer than the ML or the X5 at 124 feet, but the handling is surprisingly good in this XC90 thanks to the 275 width tires that we get on this vehicle. The wide tires have a big impact on handling as well as the cabin noise. The cabin noise is actually a little bit louder than you'll find in BMW X5 models, but the handling is actually quite good for a vehicle like this. It is actually closer to the X5 than you find in many vehicles in this segment. Now, likely because of the wide tires, I found fuel economy in this particular model a little bit disappointing. I have been averaging just over 20 miles per gallon, which is a little bit below what Volvo says you should get. Now, I do have to keep the fuel economy in context, and this is actually better fuel economy than most vehicles in this segment. However, I am a little bit disappointed that a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine doesn't give us even better fuel economy. The optional $1,800 air suspension is a little bit interesting in the Volvo because not that many vehicles in this segment have one. We do find it in something like the new Q7, in certain Land Rover and Range Rover models, and of course the new Jaguar F-Pace. In addition to adjusting the vehicle's ride height, this is an active air suspension, and it can lower and raise itself for performance benefits, and it can control the individual air struts on all 4 corners. Pricing has long been a reason to buy a Volvo over a more traditional German option, and that continues for this model year. Things start at $49,800 for the Momentum model, and it is very well equipped compared to the Germans. We get the standard all-wheel drive, standard LCD instrument cluster, and the LCD infotainment system, 10-speaker audio system, 4-zone climate control. A lot of the options out there don't even offer a 3-zone system standard. We get the standard moonroof and, of course, standard leather seating, something that's becoming strangely optional in a lot of luxury vehicles. The R-Design model is in theory the sportier XC90, although we don't get any additional power. That does get a unique grille, the standard LED headlamps, wider tires, paddle shifters, and slightly more adjustable seats. The Inscription model that we're testing here is just over $55,000. It actually is an interesting value in this segment because we get a standard leather dashboard, leather doors, the Nappa leather upholstery, more adjustable front seats with those extending thigh cushions, inflatable bolsters, etc. We also get the really wide tires and large wheels that we see on this model. LED headlamps are, of course, standard on the Inscription model. We also get some exterior lighting improvements and interior mood lighting as well. Now, if you fully load your XC90, as we're seeing right here with the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, the full 4-corner air suspension system, radar cruise control, the lane keeping assistance system, the 360-degree camera system, as well as the autonomous driving system, then you will end up right at $66,000 or so. Now, that is about $10,000 less expensive than a comparably equipped BMW X5. The interesting thing is that for this year, this is actually a hair faster to 60 than that comparably equipped BMW X5. It's $10,000 less, and it handles nearly as well. I'd say 98% of the way there. Now, this is going to be more expensive than an Acura MDX or an Infiniti QX60. However, the XC90 is a much more refined vehicle. We have more luxury features on the inside than we can find in the Infiniti or in the Acura, and all the features just have a better polish to them, especially looking at the radar cruise control, the self-driving features, etc. in this vehicle. They're much more polished, especially than that Acura. Now, interestingly enough, in terms of dynamics, the XC90 is much closer to the X5 than it is to the MDX. The reason for that is the MDX has 60% of the weight up front. This only has about 52% of the weight up front. That's a pretty big difference. The same thing goes on there for the Infiniti. Now, the trickiest competitor, of course, would be the all-new 2016 Audi Q7, but we haven't been able to drive that yet. However, based on the old Q7 and the specs that we're seeing out on the new Q7, I do expect it to be a very tough fight. Obviously, Audi will give you much more powerful engines than we find in this. There are sportier versions with wider tires, different suspensions, etc., and those will outhandle the XC90 without doubt. However, I would actually say that it's likely that the base Q7 with its 2-liter 4-cylinder engine will be very, very similar to this. The XC90's unexpectedly good driving dynamics and incredible value make this my favorite entry in this particular segment. Again, we will have to see what 2016 brings for the Audi Q7, but if you're shopping for something like a BMW X5, this is a great value and you really don't give up that much in performance as long as you're not looking for those twin-turbo V8 engine options. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes with thetruthaboutcars.com. Go ahead and check out thetruthaboutcars.com for news, reviews, and of course the full written review on this and more. I'll see you next week.